How are you all doing? How is everybody? So, welcome to the Ellis broadcast. If any of you has stumbled across this humble little stream, this is me. I'm Ellis, and yeah, here's the Ellis broadcast. So what I like to do is I like to talk about a bit of politics, put a bit of monetary politics in there as well sometimes. Although I haven't done that in a while. But yeah, mainly politics we talk about, and yeah, basically what I do is talk about the news of the week off the cuff. This is not scripted. I've not come up with this pre or beforehand. I've literally just read the news before I come on here, and I'm someone who keeps up with politics, by the way. It's not me just like going, I've just scrolled through the news and now I'm going to chat nonsense about it. I do keep up with politics and news and current affairs. But yeah, what I do is I talk about what I think about it. And this is a two-way street, by the way. So if you are listening in, everyone can chat to me on Rumble. There's no messages on there. But yes, if you are listening, let me know what you think. Get on Rumble. If you disagree with me, if you think I'm wrong, or if you think I need some extra context, or you think you can add more extra context to what I'm saying. More extra. Great England. Add extra context to what I'm talking about, please do not be afraid to message. And also, if you're watching this and you like what I'm saying, and you like this content, do not be afraid. I'm sure you're not afraid, but please, please, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. You know, it helps the channel, and also it makes me, well, it sort of gives me a way of knowing that people are liking this content. But anyway, yes, some eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that this is, I normally do this on a Sunday. I like to review the week, get all the news from the week, and yeah, sort of do a stream on a Sunday. But life's got in the way, and yeah, I was going to do it yesterday, but then I thought, well, you know, we're into a new week now, so I can't really review the news of the week on the first day of the week. And then, you know, reviewing the news from the week before seems a bit pants, even though actually, a lot of the news what's gone on last week is just continued on to this week anyway. But yeah, life got in the way, and then I'm here now on a Tuesday night doing it instead. But yeah, I think Sundays is the best place to do it, because in the week, you know, on a school night, when you've been at work all day and stuff like that, you know, it's really, really hard to get motivated to do this. But I'm here. Let's get through it. Yes. So what do we want to talk about this week? Well, hasn't it all kicked off with the Epstein files now? The Epstein files. So if some of you may have noticed last week that Prince Andrew, or Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, or as the King refers to him now, Mr. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. I bet that was a gut punch to Andrew when he was reading that. But yes, Prince Andrew was arrested, questioned, and released on bail. And this is to do with the information that he may have passed to Jeffrey Epstein through the latest round of Epstein files that have been released by the American government. And also, apparently, some dodginess going off at the Royal Lodge as well, which is also quite concerning. The King straight away put out a statement saying that he supports the police's investigation. But this is really, really crazy, to the fact that the last time that a royal or anybody of the royalty was arrested in such way, especially if he goes on to get charged, especially if he gets, because of what he's been arrested for misconduct in public office. And if he was to get charged and convicted of that, he would be the first royal that's been convicted of a crime since, I think, the 1600s or 1700s, a very, very long time ago. So that was quite interesting to hear. Yeah, and let's face it, he is well in deep with the Jeffrey Epstein debacle. And then there was calls for the fact that, well, what about Mandelson? What about Mandy, or the Prince of Darkness? Why has Andrew been arrested, but the Prince of Darkness hasn't been arrested either? And people were going on suggesting it was some sort of conspiracy, some Labour conspiracy, because we all know that Peter Mandelson was the man pulling the strings in the background of Labour. You know, he had his fingers in quite a lot of pies. And even, you know, Keir Starmer's chief advisor, Morgan McSweeney, Morgan McSweeney was, or his mentor was Peter Mandelson. So pretty much the person that Keir Starmer gives the, what do you want to call it? Because I don't even want to go. So Keir Starmer pretty much gives sort of attributes to the fact that Labour got in power, and the campaign to get Labour in power was all or quite a lot down to Morgan McSweeney. Even though one would argue, and this is why I was struggling to put it into words, because one would argue, was the campaign for Labour getting into power even that good? Because most people voted him to just get rid of the Tories. And I can't remember anything being brilliant, you know, and I can't remember really sitting there thinking, they've really got some good policies there, because they didn't. But maybe that's what it was. Maybe Morgan McSweeney advised Keir Starmer at the time to not campaign hard, just to be the grey man, to sit back, because the people are going to vote for him anyway. And that's what happened, despite the Labour politicians going on and saying, we were voted for in a landslide, we were voted for in a majority. Yeah, you weren't. You weren't. Most people voted for you, didn't even know what you said in your manifesto. But anyway, yes, there was a suggested conspiracy that Andrew was going to be the fall man, and because of the links that Peter Mandelson had to the Labour Party, that they were sort of hiding him, or not hiding him, but shielding him from being arrested. And some people even argued the fact that, well, why does that be? Because if, you know, Peter Mandelson, in the emails between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, he was telling him information that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to, or possibly make, investments on a world stage that absolutely was not in the public domain. So he passed information that allowed Jeffrey Epstein, or could have allowed Jeffrey Epstein, to make investments absolutely well within his benefit that wasn't in the public domain. These are just some of the dodginess in there. But yes, Peter Mandelson has now finally been arrested. He was arrested today or yesterday? No, it was today or yesterday. It was yesterday. He was held for a few hours, and apparently his lawyers or his legal team have released the fact that he was arrested due to a bogus claim that he is a flight risk. Which was quite interesting. But let's face it, both of them are neck deep. Both of them neck deep in this shit. The Jeffrey Epstein-ness. And then you've got Keir Starmer. Well, Keir Starmer, he's also riddled in this, because he's admitted that he definitely knew that Peter Mandelson absolutely had a, let's call it a friendship. Should we call it a friendship? Because it was a bit more deeper. It was a bit deeper than a friendship, wasn't it? We're almost lovers, I think, when you go through the emails. Very, very weird. But he had a relationship in inverted commas with Jeffrey Epstein. He knew that, Keir Starmer, and even knowing that, despite the fact that we all knew by then that Jeffrey Epstein, because he'd already gone to prison for being an absolute nonce, Keir Starmer still appointed Peter Mandelson as the American ambassador anyway. You know, the most prestigious ambassador there actually is. Insanity. Absolute insanity. Don't understand it. I don't think Keir Starmer, and there was something that went wrong, weird, because apparently the report said that he wasn't even Keir Starmer's first pick, and suddenly he wasn't even liked, apparently, by Keir Starmer. I don't know how true this is, but this is according to social media reports. He Wasn't even liked. He wasn't even on the list of the pickings. But suddenly, within like a week, he was put on the list and then became the American ambassador. Pretty dodginess going off there. But anyway, there's been a few more revelations with this. So apparently Keir Starmer will not publish the files relating to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, or Mr. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as the appointment of trade envoy. So that's what he was at the time. He was the trade envoy for the world. It just sounds, even that sounds sleazy. I don't know if it's because if he's just given that, you know, because we knew Andrew was doing that role and he's neck deep in accusations of having relationships with young girls. But even just sounds, it just sounds seedy now. But I don't know if it's because of that, like I say, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. But anyway, yes, he was obviously went through some sort of what should we call it? Some vetting process to become the trade envoy. And the trade envoy from my understanding, he just basically went round to all the different countries of the world and apparently blew smoke up their leaders' arses, and apparently that helped us with trade. I'd like to actually, I'll be honest, if I had time, I'd do a dig dive. I'd like to do a bit of a dive into what actual trade did Prince Andrew score us. What benefit was there for Prince Andrew being the trade envoy, other than just giving some royalty posh knob a job, you know, some absolute spare of the royalty a job. But anyway, yeah, that's what he did. He went round, he was a trade envoy, and at the time, he was also in bed with Jeffrey Epstein, rubbing shoulders with Jeffrey Epstein, being good pals with a guy that was just the, global super nonce, you know? And the questions have arisen of what did he know? So apparently, according to Prince Andrew, he cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein as soon as he was convicted of his noncery. But I believe, I may be wrong here, so I'm just putting a caveat here straight away, because I don't want any solicitor's post coming through my door, but I believe that there was emails traced afterwards. But it's pretty weird, because there was already reports of him being a nonce, and he still stayed at his house. Pretty weird. And then there's also the weird stuff with Fergie as well, where he was lending her money, or Jeffrey Epstein was lending her money. So it's all pretty dodgy. It all seems a bit more in depth than just a cordial relationship. But yes, as the trade envoy, that's when he had the picture of him and Virginia Giuffre on the top of the stairs. I think they've tracked the house now to a house in London. They found it. I think I was watching something on social media the other day. I think someone tracked some of the properties, either Jeffrey Epstein or what was his lover called. Why is there I've lost the names on the bloody tip of my tongue. Where was it in? Ghislaine Maxwell. Why did I struggle remembering that? But anyway, my brain's fried. It's a Tuesday night. Leave me alone. But anyway, Ghislaine Maxwell. They traced it to her house, and they found, I think it was like a new media reporter, a journalist, managed to take a picture of the stairs, and he was knocking on the door with a cleaner answered the door. Oh no, actually an old picture. It's an old video that is actually, and then they've been talking about it recently with someone else. But anyway, interesting. But yes, but reports and, I think Andrew tried to downplay their relationship, and then reports and emails have come out, and it was a lot more in depth. And there's been some freaky pictures actually with Prince Andrew and some of these parties going off and whatever else. Like him sort of stood over the top of a girl laid on the floor. Her face is obviously blanked out. But the one that really, really pisses me off actually, really got to me with the pictures of Prince Andrew, was the one where he's in a room, don't know where it is, and there's a young child, looks like a young boy, must be toddler age, like cannot be too far above 1 year old, between 1 and 2, playing with a ball that's shaped as a tit, as a breast, with a nipple on it, and it really, really, really fucking concerns me that it's not nice to see. Like, you've got a guy that has got there's quite a lot of conspiracies going around and quite a lot of accusations going around by that man's conduct, and the seeing him with a young child like that, and especially with some of these reports coming out as well on the Epstein files, where there's been reports to the FBI that some really serious things have been going off of really, really young children, like almost like apparently reports of babies being eaten and stuff like that. It really, 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 when I started hearing them reports coming out and started hearing sort of these words that you use that people are saying sort of these code words that you use in their emails that people are saying that could mean this sort of Pizzagate sort of child satanic ritual things, it really, really scares me. It really, really makes me angry. So I've got a young son, very young son, just under 1. So I'm very, very sensitive to harm to children. Like, I think if anybody commits harm to a child, I don't think they should be, especially in some of the ways that these people are talking about, they shouldn't be able to draw breath. That's my thing. They shouldn't be allowed to draw breath any longer. These people, the only suitable punishment for these people is the death penalty. And I really believe that. And knowing all that, I'm not saying, I'm not accusing Prince Andrew of doing any of that. We just don't know. But it definitely makes you uneasy when you're seeing him on the floor, on fours, with a very young toddler, with a nipple, a tit, a boob, ball. Anywhere that would be weird. But then, of course, it's linked to him and Jeffrey Epstein and all that sort of stuff. I just don't like it, and I don't like to see it, and it pisses me off. But yes, going back to Mandy, now he has also been arrested. So his links have been, as we say, passing sensitive information, sensitive state information, and he's also been investigated for misconduct in public office, like Prince Andrew. And both of these are quite serious offences, and they have an unlimited amount of they can lead to an unlimited length of a custodial sentence. Right, they pretty much just up to the judge, whatever punishment they are given for it. Now, I sit here now thinking that we've not got all the files yet. We haven't got all the files yet. I think it's is it something like 2%? 2% of the files have come out already. And look at it, we've already got a collapse in government, a collapse in our government. Keir Starmer is on the rocks. In fact, I'm surprised he has managed to survive this long as being the PM. Reports have been that you hear the reports that the only reason why he is a PM and they've not forced him out is because he's threatened for a general election. But then I was watching Tucker Carlson the other day in his interview, and he said, I saw a clip of one of his interviews anyway, and he was saying, and I thought it was brilliant, not brilliant, I thought I absolutely agree, he's saying that no one can convince me otherwise that man is taking orders from somebody, and I think he said, you couldn't even convince me at gunpoint, which is also very concerning, especially with the appointment of Mandelson, how he suddenly just appointed Mandelson even though he wasn't even on the list to become the American ambassador. Is this all linked? Is there some lizard in a smoky room orchestrating this sort of craziness in our government? Or is it because there's someone in government that's got dirt on all these people? Maybe it's that. I don't know. Let the conspiracies take up this, but it's not great. But yeah, what is it? 2% of the Epstein files have been released, and we're already looking like our PM's on his last legs, with the man in the background, the man pulling all the strings in the background of Labour, has gone. Keir Starmer's chief advisor is also gone. So let's see what happens with that. Now he's lost his trusty person that won him the election. Is he going to be able to give out the, Keir Starmer was already low quality. Like, he's already a low quality PM. He's already got approval ratings that are the worst we've ever seen on record. And this is with Morgan McSweeney, the guy that attributes to the getting him in power, get Labour in power. What's going to happen next will be quite interesting. And then we've got the local elections in May, which is going to be a good indication of people's disdain for Labour. But yeah, it's incredible. And then I don't think where was I reading this the other day? What was it? I don't even think they've released all the information about Mandelson, how they. I think they've released some of the information about Mandelson, how he was vetted for the US ambassador role, but I don't think they've released it all, and I think they're dragging their feet. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start using the police investigations for Prince Andrew and also Mandelson as being a way of restricting or stopping the data coming out about how they were vetted for these roles. I think I read that these police investigations are likely to take a long time, and convictions could take convictions are not expected to come well past 2029. That's a brilliant excuse for Labour to say, well, we can't release this data about how we vetted Mandelson because of it's sensitive, and it could be really bad for their criminal investigation. Wouldn't that be a very good excuse to not release the actual details and the dirt that they've got on them? But anyway, it's not been very good on the Mandelson front at all. And I did read that the American government have not committed to releasing any more of the files, but it's only a matter of time. This second set came through public pressure on the American government, and I don't think it'll take much to push them again. But it is not looking good. And then you've had the I know this is going off a tangent from the Mandelson stuff, but then you've also had the fact that Keir Starmer was found when he was in his appointment of bloody hell, why has it gone from my mind again? Oh man. The chief prosecutor for the government. That's not the right thing though, is it? The head of the CPS, there we go. Got it, accessed it in my brain. So when he was the head of CPS, he was sending letters to apparent, instead of investigating grooming gangs victims, he was sending letters to accused rapists, I think telling them to stop doing what they're doing. That's also coming out. I really need to read that story a bit more in depth because of, it just seems to be dirt and dirt and dirt flying up against Keir Starmer. And I don't know if it's being leaked because they want rid of him. I don't know if it's being leaked because there's just that much sleaze about him that they're struggling to keep it under wraps anymore. But it is not looking good. But then he just still remains in power. He's slippier. He's a slippy Starmer. He seems to be slippier than Boris. And then I don't know how it's that's my dog. She's just dreaming behind me at the moment. She's had a busy day, bless her. But yeah, I don't know how he does it, and I don't know how for me, I was reading when I was looking for all this Epstein stuff and all this dirt and sleaze that's coming up about Starmer. I don't know how they've managed to keep the backbenchers in line. I don't know why the backbenchers of Labour are going, because let's face it, a lot of politicians, especially cabinet ministers, but also backbench politicians, they're in that role so long as they keep their seat. And for a lot of these people, they are career politicians. They don't have any other job other than being a politician. And if they lose their seat, they're done for. That's them out of work. That's them in the job queue. That's them queuing up for the job centre. And this current government, the people in charge of Labour at the moment are making very, very poor decisions, and it must be very, very hard to to stick up for them. I know they get the tweets handed to them from Labour HQ, so all the backbenchers, you'll see them on X, and all the sort of cabinet ministers will get their sort of tweets given to them from Labour HQ, and they get told what to say, and they get whipped in line about what they need to do and where they need to be and what they need to vote for. But it's really, really hard to keep whipping people in line when they look at the leadership above them and think, well, that leadership is collapsing and it's making our position untenable. So it's really, really surprising that the backbenchers are not up in arms, and it's not a vote to no confidence flying around yet. But anyway, controversially, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm going to use a different word. It's been a long day. But another thing we need to consider, though, is the fact that, if they were to kick out Keir Starmer and he did hold a general election, what would that mean? Imagine a general election in the next few months. So, as you may know on my social media, or anybody sees me on X, I am an avid supporter of Restore Britain. Right? I used to be, back in the day when Reform came into the scene, I was a supporter of them. I like what they had to say. And since then till now, well, the big thing for me is when they kicked out Rupert Lowe out of Reform and how they did it. With all the accusations of him, threatening to shoot people and threatening to beat up Zia Youssef and whatever else. It was all nonsense. We all know it was nonsense, right? And Nigel Farage has admitted it to an extent, right? Because if he went on, he was in a press conference the other day, and he was asked about it by the mainstream media, and he said, the reason why we kicked out Rupert Lowe is because he said that he wanted to not only have mass deportations, but wanted to deport whole families and whole parts of the society as well, and which is, we all know, is total nonsense. If you keep up Restore Britain, it's total nonsense. Restore Britain basically wants, what Rupert Lowe was saying is that he wants to deport not only people linked to the grooming gangs, people who've committed these atrocities, but also their family members, cousins, friends, whatever else, people who knew about it in their circles that are also part of the same community. But yes, he admitted to this extent. That's why Nigel kicked on the hierarchy of Reform, kicked out Rupert Lowe, and that's pretty much where I cancelled my membership there and then when that happened. To be fair, or not long after, anyway. And then since then, I've been politically homeless. And then I came on to, I don't know how I've gone down this avenue of talking about Restore Britain, but yes. And then we came down, and then excitingly, Restore Britain started up their own party last week, and a week before, which is absolutely brilliant. I've been watching Rupert Lowe on social media for quite a while. His social media presence is brilliant, and he just gets it. Like you see his X account and Facebook and Instagram, and the comments he's putting on there, the videos he's putting on there, and what he's doing around government, and what and how he's supporting his movement at the start that's now become a party, or is in the process of becoming a party. It's been absolutely brilliant, and it just shows, he's been political. They've said they've changed Restore Britain to political party in the last 2 weeks, and they've got 90,000 members. It took Reform 4 months to get to that level, and it's surpassed Advance as well, which is another bit of craziness going off there as well with Advance with Ben Habib. I don't know how I got down to talking about Restore Britain. I wanted to just talk about Restore Britain anyway, so let's just stay on this tangent anyway. But yes, Restore Britain has been doing really well, and but haven't you seen the shrieking that's been coming off of the some people just say that Reform were just the right wing of the uni party anyway. But yes, some of the shrieking that's been going off on the Reform, what shall we put? Empathetic media has been insane. I don't know if anybody saw last week with Alex Phillips, where they first had young Bob on, and then Charlie Downs, and they had them on, and she went through the standard sort of, playbook that reform was exposed to at the start, that they were all moaning about, this sort of acting dumb, trying to trip them up, trying to get them to say words that makes the Restore Britain look bad, and all of them handle it so well, all of them, especially young Bob. Wow, this is a 17-year-old guy, and he absolutely just sat there as Alex Phillips was shrieking, waving her arms around at the fact that some of the values that Restore Britain has, the fact that not only do they, well, it's the same reason why that Rupert Lowe was kicked out of the reform. It's the fact that not only does Rupert Lowe or the Restore Britain want to deport these foreign nationals linked to the grooming gangs, but they also want to deport the families that knew about it, the parts of their family, cousins, wives, uncles, whatever, that knew about it and didn't do anything about it to stop it. It's been quite good to see the shrieking, and I know why, because people who originally were supporters of reform are let down by them. Are absolutely let down by them, and I wanted reform to win. I'm somebody who's, now an avid supporter of Restore Britain. I'm a member of Restore Britain, but I wanted reform to win. I wanted reform to do well, and what they were saying at the start, it seemed like it was in the same tone as what Restore Britain have got now. But it seems like now that reform has been exposed to, well, people from the Tory party, or them absorbing people from the Tory party, and not necessarily the good people from the Tory party. There's no Nick Timothys in there, or Katie Lambs. They've got Nadine Dorris and Naheem Zahari and Robert Jenrick. These people are not the high flyers of the Tory party. Most of them are political comedians. Look at no, I'm not going on that tangent. We'll be here all night. But it's and then their exposure to foreign money as well, and and other billionaires and billionaire influence. It seems to have just watered down, which is quite disappointing, really. For example, and this is the difference. There's a good one. There's a good one the other day. So comparing restore and reform. So reform was saying that we should deport. They now support mass deportations. Which they didn't do before, and when they were talking about kicking out Rupert Lowe. And I can remember that interview with Nigel Farage saying, "Oh, we don't want to go down that avenue of talking about mass deportations." And then Stephen Edgerton was pushing him to say, "Well, what are you going to do with all the illegal migrants who've come over? Do they get citizenship?" And it's, "Oh, no. Blatantly not thought about it. Blatantly uncomfortable with that line of questioning." And for a while they said they didn't support mass deportations, but now they do. And it seems to be that Restore Britain is still pushing the Overton window. But there was a fine one the other day with Zia Youssef announced. So they said that if we're going to do mass deportations, and if these countries don't take back these people, we're going to put visa restrictions. And these countries are like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Eritrea, And then Restore Britain's line is, well, we shouldn't have people getting visas from the countries anyway. These people shouldn't be coming from these countries. I've had the pleasure of going to Afghanistan, right? I've been to Afghanistan, right? And I've seen it. Now, you cannot have, or like, these people, like, without me going too much in depth, these people, right, although they're human beings, right, their ideologies, their values, their ways of life, their attitudes towards women and children, right, are absolutely, completely incompatible with ours. And I would challenge anybody saying that these people can just get on a plane, after living in some of these areas of Afghanistan, even some of the more affluent areas. And when I say affluent areas, that really inverted commas in, say, like Kabul. Even if they come over here, right, there's no way that these values are going to change as soon as they hit British soil. And it's quite concerning because the attitudes that they've got are very medieval. Like, even even actually further back than that. You know, and I don't want to go into too much in depth in there, but you know, I absolutely support Restore Britain sort of what they're saying, that we should be negotiating these countries about visa restrictions. We shouldn't have people from these countries anyway. Ding, big red X, no way. So that just compares it, and it's really hitting well. Restore Britain, you know, all over social media, people are in support. All my friends that I speak to about politics are all seem to be very happy that Restore Britain's come on the scene. You're still getting the same shrieking from the Uniparty right and the left saying, nobody knows. When I say Uniparty right, I mean Reform. Nobody knows Rupert Lowe. He only exists in the social media sphere. Yeah, nobody knows. You know, because as we all know, there's an embargo with him going on any of the mainstream media news channels. So he literally can only exist in social media at the moment. I'm not seeing him on any sort of interview for a while since he became Restore Britain as a party, other than probably Talk TV. And I don't know if he can't. Well, he's not been on GB News. I don't know if he went on Talk TV either. I think Talk TV have been inviting on some of the younger members of Restore Britain, or young Bob, who's not even a part of Restore Britain. He's a Turning Point UK. Yeah, he only exists in social media. Well, what? Like, the vast majority of people, millennials, and some of the later Gen Xers, do not watch the TV anymore. Now, they don't. This is what people are saying, because he's not on television, because he's not on BBC News or Sky News all the time, you know, like, or on GB News, like, or GB News based on Reform TV, like Nigel Farage. You know, no one knows about him. But pretty much everybody under the age of, I don't know, 50 gets the majority of their news from social media anyway. I do not go on any other app now to get my news. Well, I do, actually, so I tell a lie. So I get the majority of my news from, what I do is I get the majority of my news from X, and then sometimes I do a bit more research on some of the ground, using the Ground News app, actually. Quite a good app, because it sort of says the bias with a particular article. But as you're finding now with a lot of mainstream media stuff, it's normally regurgitated from someone in the new media anyway. So, for example, I was seeing a lot with, I don't know if anybody's seen Lewis Brackpool, really good guy on social media. And he was saying he does a lot of freedom of information requests to get information off the government. And some of this can be quite bad for the government. You know, I think freedom of information request was one of the very few things that Tony Blair regretted bringing in. But the way it does it allows people to get information off the government that should be produced, and the only way they can stop or not produce that information is that if it's down to a matter of national security. And some of the information he's been getting is very, very eye-opening. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head, but but what we was finding is he was doing all this work, sending freedom of information requests, putting on his social media, tying up these articles, and then you're finding that people like the Telegraph and the Daily Mail and other people, I don't know if the Daily Mail, but I know the Telegraph was definitely stealing it. Just stealing it straight off social media and putting it as their own. So yeah, for people to say that, Rupert Lowe only exists in the X sphere or social media is crazy, because of majority of people use social media every single day. So I would say that actually social media is a way of targeting younger people. And I find as well that everyone I speak to about Rupert Lowe, whether they're involved with politics or not, I ask them and they've got, yeah, I know who Rupert Lowe is. And they always seem to come with a good opinion of him. But then this is only around my circle, so maybe, and I don't tend to conversate with much people, the hair shirt brigade and or the hairy armpit brigade, like Jeremy Clarkson likes to say. And there was even a conspiracy going about that Jeremy Clarkson was talking about standing as an MP in Doncaster, I believe, to where Ed Miliband, I think it's Doncaster North maybe, where Ed Miliband has got his constituency. And there was some speculation that could be a Restore Britain. You could stand for Restore Britain. Now that would be absolutely amazing. Could you imagine? But anyway, and also, talking about Rupert Lowe on social media is one of his biggest backers on there is Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has got to be the biggest account on X. So you got Elon Musk reposting your stuff, who posts go absolutely worldwide every single time he does it, and every time he does post anything, and I'm glad, because some of the stuff, especially with SpaceX, is brilliant. I love reading about SpaceX. I love that sort of stuff, especially like I think it was last year when they managed to first land that rocket back down. What amazing engineering feat that was. But anyway, Elon Musk is backing him on social media, so that's also going to help. And I'm at the stage now myself where I don't even want to consider the fact that, well, will Rupert Lowe ever get a chance of getting a political party together that could contest and get him into power as the next PM? Because I don't think it's a question of if he will. It's the fact that I think Rupert Lowe has got to become the Prime Minister of the next election, after the next election, because I don't think anybody else is to the standard of what we need. And how, looking at Nigel Farage, I was able to kick Rupert Lowe out. And so I think he called it, we just were a bit more harsh about doing it or something like that. How he could actually kick someone out of his party because of the politics, because he disagreed with their politics and was willing to destroy that man's life to do that, to make up false allegations that could lead him to be in prison. Led him to have his house raided, and then for the charges to be dropped because they were absolute bullshit. And all the wasting of police time and also government positions, people in government's time, having to go through that nonsense, right? Do you really want someone in power who's got that sort of attitude to someone else? Because I know I don't. You really expose these people's true colours and what they're prepared to do to get in power, which is quite concerning. And this is where I'm at. Like, another reason why I quite like Rupert Lowe is the fact that I don't, you see the guy, he's a multimillionaire, he's made his money. He could absolutely be sat in Monaco somewhere with a pina colada, sat feet up in the sun, and instead of he's choosing to fight for the country. He being an MP. If you read the book Why Westminster Works and Why It Doesn't, being an MP is very, very time consuming. It takes a lot of your time. It can be quite stressful. There's a lot of travel between your constituency and back in London. There's a lot of late time, early votes. There's a lot of things you have to do. They have to even manage a little team as well. It's a very busy job and requires a large amount of your time. And for a man that already is quite successful in business and also doing it for free because he's donating his MP salary every month to charities, I think around Great Yarmouth, but also I think it's pushed on into the UK, but definitely around Great Yarmouth. You can definitely see that guy's priorities are in a better place than maybe Nigel Farage's. And that's how I see it. Like I say, he does not have to be here, does not have to be doing what he's doing. I don't think he's trying to push for power. I think his messaging has definitely been that, because there's been some reformers, uniparty right reformers, trying to say that he's a dictator. He just wants to be in power, be in charge of the country, and be a dictator. But all the messaging that's come from Rupert Lowe has definitely been that I don't want to do this. I shouldn't have to do this. I could absolutely be sat, like say, in Monaco with my feet up, but I'm not. I'm doing this because I want a better country for myself and for the people and for the future people. For myself and for our children and children's children, and that's ultimately why I am full support of Restore Britain, because they're the only party I can see that has the ability to make the necessary changes for the better of this country. And now I've been bleating about 45 minutes, and I've probably gone down in avenues that I wasn't expecting to go down, but I'm going to leave that there tonight. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Mandelson stuff.
because the emails are quite damning, but especially Andrew Mandelson, Peter, Prince Andrew, or Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor, I suspect because of the circles that they are in and the shit pies that will be served to the people that have put them in positions, if they were to be convicted and arrested, and well, they've been arrested, but were to be convicted and put in prison sentences. I suspect what will happen there with them two is that if anything does come of it, it won't be read out until, or won't come to light, or won't come to fruition till after this government's out of power, because of I think they're going to try and do everything to try and stop more dirt and sleaze coming their way. And with Restore Britain, I really hope that they are the ticket. I really hope they do well. I am rooting for them hard. I really hope that they can weather the storm. They can weather the initial shrieking from the uniparty right news channels. I mean, I think, the old Alex Phillips thing, I think I put a post on to Restore one of Rupert Lowe's posts saying, you should send her a thank you card, because of all that shrieking and all this sort of trying to get people to not be supportive of Restore Britain and go back to reform, or hold a line with their support reform. It's just ended up bringing more publicity to Restore Britain anyway, and good publicity as well. I don't think it had the desired effect of the people who were doing the shrieking. And all of it seems to be takedowns that, like you say, that Reform used to complain about with the BBC and all the uniparty left news outlets. So it's interesting to see that Reform are on the other end of the spectrum doing the exact same things. And it's all just cringe as well. It's all just cringe. All this slop spin, this all New Labour spin that's just, no one wants to hear it now. Everybody can see through it. If you really think Restore Britain are that bad, if these reformers, the Alex Phillipses or whoever else, right, think Restore Britain are that bad, Nigel Farage's and the GB Newses and everybody else, right, instead of trying to rubbish them through through calling them racists or neo-Nazis like they've been doing, right, imaginary words, why don't they just debate them on their policies? If they think that they are so much better than Restore Britain, then surely their policies should speak for it. And surely they shouldn't need to be doing the shrieking, because of their policies will shine through anyway. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Right, so if you are listening to my stream, I'm Ellis Eccles. I'm on all social media outlets. You'll probably see this snipped up throughout the week, all little snippets of this video, and by the end of the week you probably can watch the whole video and all the little snippets on my social media. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, mainly on X most of the time. And if you are seeing this, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you need to do to keep up with my channel. I do these once a week, and actually I find them quite therapeutic, even though it is sort of me talking to myself for 49 minutes. And I found I'm actually quite, I find it I can actually do it, and I find it gets a lot off my chest, and validates a lot what I'm thinking. But yes, like I say, give me a follow, like, subscribe, follow me on social media. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next. No, I'm going to try and do on Sunday. I'm trying to get back on the routine of doing them Sundays, because if doing them in a week on a school night is, especially when I've been at work all day, you definitely get the brain fog at the end of the evening. And definitely in the week, I'd like to just put my feet up and maybe read a book. But yeah, thanks for listening. See you later.